Minister, this question really is put in on foot as some of your comments, which I found quite concerning, about the fact that you see the Defence Forces about trying to plug them in with innovators and entrepreneurs who'd be given access to the Defence Forces in order to help those innovators to develop jobs and so on. Now, there's obviously clear dangers in such a strategy, given that we can't control maybe where the end product in military terms ends up. And I suppose I'm seeking assurances as to the level of debate that took place in preparation of the White Paper and what safeguards you intend to put in place to ensure that this plug-in that you're encouraging doesn't involve us dealing with the likes of Israel and the likes of Saudi Arabia.
Minister, number 72.
Well, look, I'm glad you asked this question, because it allows me to put some clarity on the floor of the House, because I think sometimes, Deputy, you like to paint me as some kind of militarised warmonger here, hawk, right? Which is, nothing could be further from the truth, actually. If you knew, and if you were part of the conversations in the preparation of the White Paper, like, we're talking about spending significant amounts of taxpayers' money on building a Peace and Leadership Institute in the Curragh, which will bring universities from all over the world, hopefully, to actually train people on actually how to keep peace rather than make war. We're focusing our resources on ensuring that our defence forces, of course, have a defence capacity, but primarily their interests abroad will be about protecting them and training them and making sure that they're effective in terms of peacekeeping. That's why I'm looking for more budget, not anything else. And what we're doing in terms of the platform that is the Defence Force infrastructure, we want to work with the private sector to actually develop technology that can help us do what the Irish Defence Forces do more effectively. That isn't about testing weapons. It's about doing things like testing kite technology on the decks of ships. It's about things like which is happening at the moment. It's about putting better communication systems in place so that we can have improved and secure communications, and we can actually test it within the Defence Forces. It's about improving observation. It's about improved safety training and all of the other practical things that actually we can test within the infrastructure that is, a Defence Force training camp or a naval ship or, an Air Corps plane, so that we can improve the technology and link in with a lot of the technology innovators in Ireland that we have.
Thank you.
And if you look at what's happening, for example, and I often use the example, and I'll finish on this, Laskin-Corla, I often use the example of Cork Harbour and the Irish Marine and Energy Resource Cluster. We have 48 companies now working in the Beaufort Laboratory, next door to the naval base. And we have an opportunity to work with some of them in terms of marine innovation and marine technology, using naval vessels to be able to do that.
Thank you.
That's what we're about.
Deputy Daly,
this isn't about testing weapons
Daly,
or anything else, which is what some people like to paint at us.
You didn't say anything about testing weapons. I talked about you shacking up with some regimes that are the likes of Saudi Arabia and Israel and so on, who also pride themselves on their ability to develop security measures and high-tech IT solutions, which you have lauded here before. Now, private firms that you want us to link up with are in the business of profit. They're not interested in world peace. They're not interested in giving you the best product. They're interested in profit. And my question specifically was, given the inability of the arms industry, manufacturers and suppliers and security personnel around the world to control where their products ends up, what measures have you put in place, for example, in dealing with these likely partners that you've said we'll go into consortia with to, for example, access Horizon 2020 funding? What types of partners will they be? What assurances can you give us that you will have nothing to do with companies based in Israel or companies based in Saudi Arabia? And do you know why I'm asking? Because they're the ones that are profiting most.
Thank you,
they're
Minister.
the ones that are looking for partners in that type of technology.
And
I don't think that's compatible with their neutrality.
Well, look, I'm not going to start naming individual countries. What I will say is that the statements in the White Paper about promoting innovation through the Defence Forces, public-private partnerships between the Defence Forces and private companies, Irish companies primarily, is already well underway and has been very successful. And we are developing new designs, new technologies, new innovations that may well be very useful to the Irish Defence Forces, or may well have a very useful application in the civilian world and have nothing to do with defence or military capacity whatsoever. But if you have 9,500 people who are training, who have a lot of equipment, it makes sense to actually match up that equipment with some of the need that's out there amongst the private sector to actually test and design and develop new technologies. And we're doing this in a spirit of innovation, not in a spirit of war making.
Thank you, Minister.
And that is not what actually, you probably have, to be fair to you, read the white paper. But if you look at the white paper, there is, I think, it's an assessment of risk. It is basically consistent with Irish foreign policy in terms of neutrality, and it is about promoting peace and stability worldwide and providing basic security response capacity here in Ireland.
Thank you. Deputy Daly now.
On the innovation side, that's all it's doing as well.
Deputy Daly.
The point is that despite your best intentions, where the end product ends up is something that's outside your control unless you stipulate in advance that you're going to put in safeguards that don't allow you to operate with countries which have a proven pedigree in this regard. I mean, for example, seeing as you're talking about IT and all the rest, we know that Israel, for example, has supplied over 60% of the world's drones since 1985. New types of technology, such as the Sea Knight, an unmanned patrol ship which was used to fire upon Palestinian fishermen in and around Gaza earlier this year. This is a type of technology that was developed elsewhere but has been used for coercive activity and could just as easily match some of the projects that you're saying. So given that the Saudis now are fourth in the world in terms of their military expenditure, that they're branching into this, they now spend more than $80 billion in 2014. What assurances can you give us? Because I think you should, to be honest, because we're talking about where the end product, that we will not be linking up our Defence Forces personnel in bids for funding from Horizon 2020, which you have implied we'd be going in with other consortia. Because that's minimum human rights compliance stuff.
Minister.
I haven't implied anything apart from saying that this will be an open, transparent process. This will be about using basic infrastructure within the Defence Forces to be able to test and develop and design and innovate new products that can be very useful to us. But we have made it very clear that that isn't about facilitating weapons or munitions in terms of testing. That's not what this is about. And like people, if you read the white paper, I'd encourage people to read the white paper, because I think you'll see that very clearly when you read it.
Thank you.